Thank you, Albert. I'm very happy to introduce our keynote speaker for today. Sheila Johnson is a renowned entrepreneur and philanthropist. She built a media empire by co-founding Black Entertainment Television and is the first African-American woman to be an owner or partner in 3 professional sports franchises: NHL's Washington Capitals, the NBA's Washington Wizards, and the WNBA's Washington Mystics. Ms. Johnson is a passionate supporter of the hospitality industry, founding Salamander Hotels and Resorts, a Virtuoso preferred partner, where she serves as CEO and which operates 5 luxury properties: Salamander Resort and Spa in Middleburg, Virginia, the Hotel Bennett in Charleston, South Carolina, Innsbruck Resort in Tampa Bay, Florida, the Henderson in Destin, Florida, and Half Moon in Montego Bay, Jamaica. Ms. Johnson's story today demonstrates the courage and fortitude she called upon as she overcame multiple setbacks along her path to success, and has some valuable lessons about adaptability and internal resources we all are having to call on right now. I know that you will find a great deal to relate to in her story, and that you will be inspired and uplifted as well. Please join me in welcoming Sheila Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Sheila Johnson. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the great Virtuoso team led by Matthew Upchurch for not only inviting me to speak, but for having the courage, imagination, and foresight to move forward with this year's Travel Week conference against the longest odds and to do so virtually. As they say, it's not the cards you're dealt in life, it's how you play them. And for that reason, my hat is off to Matthew and his entire team for a job well done, and to the travel advisor community for devoting your time to attending. While you may know that I'm the founder and CEO of Salamander Hotels and Resorts, let me pull back the curtain a little for you. And let me tell you instead a little about the woman behind both the name and the title, and how my backstory and journey led me to the remarkable industry. I was born a few decades ago in Maywood, Illinois, a tiny bedroom community just west of Chicago, where I was both a cheerleader and a violinist at Proviso High School, the same school that graduated, among others, singer John Prine, actor Dennis Franz, and one-time NBA star Doc Rivers. I was the oldest child and only daughter of Dr. George Crump and his wife Marie. My dad, a brilliant man of science, was one of only a handful of Black neurosurgeons in America at the time. My mother, meanwhile, was a classic 50s housewife who lived for her family and whose full-time job was making sure the food was always good and hot, the sheets were always clean and crisp, and that everyone felt welcome. After a college career at the University of Illinois, where I'd gone on a full music scholarship, I got married and helped start both a family and a new business. BET was a cable channel targeting African Americans, and it quickly became one of the newest and most successful media empires in America. Then, when BET was sold, I took a portion of my share of the profits and purchased a sprawling horse farm in beautiful Middleburg, Virginia, just west of D.C. That's frankly when things really started to get interesting, and when I found what really made me feel whole as a person, because that's when I first got the idea for Salamander Hotels and Resorts. My mother, you see, for all she was a behind-the-scenes person in my early days, had a far greater impact on me than even my father. And so when I thought about what kind of company I wanted to start, I thought of her. And I thought of how my mother lived her life and the many things she tried to pass on to me. And it all came back to hot, good food and clean, crisp sheets. It all came back, in other words, to making people feel at home. And that's what she did best. And I realized that's what I did best. Now, as for the name of my company, let me tell you a quick story. When I bought my farm, it had an entirely different name, but the man I bought it from committed the cardinal sin of farm ownership. When he moved, he took his farm's name along with him. Ask any horse farmer and they'll tell you that is not only bad luck, but it is a no-no in the highest order. Still, what was I to do? Well, being a resourceful girl, I sought out the previous owner. He turned out to be a guy named Bruce Sunland, who I soon came to realize was one of the most amazing men I ever met. Mr. Sunland, the one-time governor of Rhode Island, had served as a federal prosecutor. He worked side by side with President John Kennedy and had orchestrated his inauguration. He helped introduce satellite communications to the nation, and he developed a small airport near Middleburg, just so he could fly his private plane to and from business trips. So when I asked Mr. Sunland the name of his one-time farm, he told me he called it Salamander. He explained that he flew B-17s during World War II, and when his plane got shot down one fateful day, he hid himself from the Nazis by covering himself in cow manure and not making a sound. He later joined the French Resistance and soon became known for his uncanny ability to live by his wits and to escape detection. Soon, the leaders of the French Resistance gave him a code name, one based on their undying respect for his gifts and one based on the only creature known to man to be able to walk through fire and survive. They called him the Salamander. So when it came to naming my startup hospitality venture, what else could I do? I considered all I'd done to adjust on the fly, the extent to which I'd been forced to adapt to changing business circumstances, and thus far I'd come in defiance of the odds stacked against me, and I realized there was only one name and one symbol for my little company. Aha, the Salamander. But I tell you these things only so that you can get to know me a little. Because one of the things about me, and frankly about my properties, is this. I do not have a huge corporate brand. I don't have a NASDAQ symbol or an ad budget measured in the tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, in many ways, I'm the brand. I'm just me. And I've got a small team of hardworking and fiercely dedicated professionals behind me. And what I believe and what I've tried to impact to every person on my Salamander team, from top to bottom, is just that. As a politician wins an election one voter at a time, or an author builds a fan base one reader at a time, so too we will build this company one guest, one heart at a time. That's why I pour my soul into everything I do, and in this day and age when it seems someone tossed the rule book out of our industry's car window as we hurtle along the highway at 90 miles an hour, this is truer than ever. But I'm not afraid, and you know why? Because it's Salamander. We're real. And just like me, we're all about honesty and passion. You see, people can not only sense honesty and passion, they gravitate toward it. They try to get as close to it as possible in the hopes that they can, just maybe, warm their hands on it. That's what Sheila Johnson is all about. That's what my properties are all about. Salamander Resort and Spa in Middleburg, Virginia, Hotel Bennett in Charleston, South Carolina, Innisbrook Resort in Tampa Bay, the Henderson in Destin, Florida, and Half Moon in Montego Bay, Jamaica. And that's what everything I ever undertake is all about. To show you what I mean by that, I like to play a brief video for you. But this video will not be slickly produced and glossy celebration of my luxury hotels and resorts. Instead, it will be a clip of a film festival I started 8 years ago in my hometown of Middleburg. And watch how I've incorporated so many of the things that remain near and dear to my heart. Diversity of thought and people, empowering women, supporting the arts, humanity, truth, great storytelling, and integrated them all into the Middleburg Film Festival. Roll the video, please. Hi, I'm Sheila Johnson. In 2013, I founded the Middleburg Film Festival with the mission of using the power of film to engage, inspire, and inform audiences.
You don't know what you're into down here in Alabama when you're guilty from the moment you're born.
The movies we've screened over the past 7 years have encouraged dialogue and fostered understanding and empathy.
When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, say something, do something.
Mudbound is an investigation like who we are as a country. Like this is not new.
They can't just pick us or sit us down like we do.
This is who we are. This is not past tense. This is who we've always been, and like the tablecloth is just being pulled back.
We've listened. We've learned from one another. We've laughed and cried together.
Fear is your enemy.
Whoa, easy now.
I'm gonna be free or die.
Thank you so much. Me and the production designer and the costume designer, you know, all of us African American, we cried every day, but we were fortified by, and I'm always fortified by in studying American history, the tenacity and the ingenuity and the strength of our people.
We've been transported and transformed. We've honored trailblazers and celebrated unsung heroes.
My fear for him was not a reason why I shouldn't do it. It was exactly the reason why I should step into it, because that fear is the same fear that every black parent has for their children when they put them out into the world. And so that's what it was for me, and it turned into an extraordinary experience.
Through diversity and inclusiveness, films can forge connections, heal, and bring about change. And it's a great pleasure that I give you the Visionary Award. And thank you so much for being here for the Middleburg Film Festival, and I don't want this to be the last time. With your support, we can continue to bring films like these to a wider audience. The stories we tell and the voices who tell them matter. The musician Paul Simon once wrote, "The words of the prophet are written on the subway walls." Well, along those lines, I would contend that the face of America and beyond is written on the hallways of the hospitality industry. Our remarkable, constantly renewing and constantly evolving industry is arguably as diverse as any in this country. And because we offer the U.S. job market so many entry-level positions that require skills that transcend language and culture, we represent a virtual cross-section of the immigrant experience in America. Many members of those storied, huddled masses who've come to our shores to seek new lives themselves and better lives for the children often earned their very first paycheck as members of the lodging industry. Now, my intent here is not to extol the virtues of diversity. If by now you don't understand how critical diversity is to the health and well-being of any community in any field, then there is little I can say to make a light bulb go on over your head. Instead, let me offer you this little kernel of thought. Because the hospitality industry already employs such a diverse cross-section of people of all different colors, cultures, languages, backgrounds, and religions, we have a gigantic head start in learning how to fix this country's single most burning social issue today, namely race or racism in America. Look, an unfortunate number of people in this country, black and white, are far from coming to the grips with institutional racism, the kind of racism that is baked into the very fabric of so many American institutions, if not the American way of life. For that reason, such people still cannot even talk about racism, much less actually do something about it. But we can. Our industry is a living laboratory of cultures. We are a virtual petri dish of humanity and human beings. every day we make it possible for entry-level and rank-and-file workers from multiple backgrounds and of multiple colors to work side by side and learn from one another, becoming wiser, more compassionate, and more understanding human beings as they do. What's more, as an industry built on attention to detail and one that is all about the little things in a guest experience, our management ranks are becoming more and more populated by people of color, immigrants, and self-taught self-starters who have risen through the ranks. People who've learned how to run a successful property from the ground up because they've walked in the shoes of those working the front lines of the guest experience. But here's also the rub, because as much as we are seeing more and more people of color in our management positions, we're not doing all we can. And we can still do more and should do more. Because if the hospitality industry's rank and file is being strengthened more and more by diversity, doesn't it stand to reason that our management ranks would also benefit by the same broadening of racial experiences, sensibilities, and backgrounds? I urge all of you, because in these crazy divided times in which we find ourselves, to dare yourself to confront the issue of race as you perhaps never have before. Consider our nation's history. Consider our collective treatment of Native Americans. Consider the vast hopelessness that continues to grip our poorest Black communities. And consider that race and racism is, indeed, a problem that is not going to go away until we, you and I, fix it. But we're not going to fix it by demanding more of our president, demanding more of our congressman, or even demanding more of our neighbor. We're going to fix it by demanding more of ourselves. We do it by providing promotions and professional opportunities to people who don't always look or talk like we do. Look, we cannot fix the world, at least not all at once, but we can get our house in order, and that would be a start, because what is the world if nothing more than a collection of millions of little houses? But the good news is, just look at the faces of those already in our industry. Listen to the faces talk. Read their name tags. Those are the faces, sounds, and names of America. And when you do that, my fellow professionals, you will realize we have something no one else has in the ongoing quest to once and for all stamp out racism and ignorance in this country. We've got a head start, and just remember, the face of America is written in the halls of the hospitality industry. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you today, and thank you for your commitment to travel.